Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. This is your chemistry teacher Farzana Nazir. Today we are going to continue our chapter 7 that is related to electrochemistry. Today we are going to discuss oxidation reduction reactions which are used in the recovery of metals from their ore. We are going to study electrochemical cells, different types of electrochemical cells, and we are going to discuss galvanic cell, also known as voltaic cell or Daniell cell. After going through today's lesson, students will be able to describe the nature of electrochemical processes. They can easily explain the components and working of electrochemical cell. They can easily sketch a galvanic cell. Now let us start our today's lesson. Consider the formation of calcium chloride by the reaction of calcium and chlorine. Calcium and chlorine contain neutral atoms. Since calcium chloride is known to contain calcium ions and chloride ions, this reaction must involve a transfer of electron from calcium atom to chlorine atom. Such a reaction which involves transfer of electrons is known as oxidation reduction reaction. These reactions are also called redox reactions. Methods of recovering metal from their ores. The process of producing a metal from its ore always involves oxidation reduction reaction. Most of the metals are found in nature as oxides or sulfides. After mining the ore, desired mineral is separated from other minerals. Purified metal oxide are reduced to free metal by using reducing agent. Aluminium, coke, carbon monoxide gas and hydrogen gas are generally used as reducing agent. Let us study the extraction of iron from its ore, hematite Fe2O3. In the extraction of iron, iron oxide reacts with carbon monoxide to form iron and carbon dioxide. In this reaction, iron oxide is the oxidizing agent which oxidizes carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide, whereas carbon monoxide is a reducing agent. It reduces iron oxide to pure iron. Extraction of iron involves the chemical reduction of hematite by a reducing agent to form pure metal. For this purpose, a blast furnace is used. Iron ore, limestone and coke are introduced into the blast furnace from the top. A blast of hot air is forced up the furnace from the bottom, hence named blast furnace. Oxygen gas react with coke to form mostly carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Is it an oxidation or reduction reaction? It is an oxidation reaction because carbon gain oxygen. These reactions are highly exothermic. As hot carbon monoxide rises, it reacts with iron oxide and reduces it to iron. Molten iron collects at the bottom of the furnace. Lead, zinc and copper metals occur naturally as sulfide ores. These ores are first converted into corresponding oxides by heating in oxygen. In this process, sulfur is oxidized and oxygen is reduced. These oxides are then reduced by coke, carbon monoxide or hydrogen. Zinc oxide is reduced by coke to form zinc and carbon monoxide. Lead oxide is reduced by carbon monoxide to form pure lead and carbon dioxide, whereas copper oxide is reduced by hydrogen to form pure copper and water. Next topic of our today's lecture is electrochemical cells. Now let us study electrochemical cells in detail. Nature of electrochemical processes. Electrochemical processes are oxidation-reduction reactions in which chemical energy released by a spontaneous reaction is converted to electricity, or in which electrical energy is used to drive a non-spontaneous reaction. Whether electrochemical process releases or require energy, it always involves the transfer of electrons from one substance to another. This means that this process always involves an oxidation-reduction reaction or a redox reaction. Types of electrochemical cells. There are two types of electrochemical cell: electrolytic cell and a galvanic cell. Today we are going to discuss only galvanic cell in detail. Let us first study the difference between electrolytic cell and galvanic cell. In electrolytic cell, electrical energy is converted into chemical energy, whereas in galvanic cell, chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. In electrolytic cell, current is used to drive a chemical reaction, whereas in galvanic cell, current is produced as a result of chemical reaction. In electrolytic cell, non-spontaneous redox reaction take place, whereas in galvanic cell, spontaneous redox reaction take place. Example of electrolytic cell is Down cell, Nelson cell, whereas the example of galvanic cell is voltaic cell, dry cell or battery. Galvanic cell. The cell which involves spontaneous redox reaction to generate electricity is called a galvanic or voltaic cell. The name voltaic is given to this cell because Alexandro Volta discovered first such cell. The English chemist Frederick Daniel constructed first voltaic cell using zinc and copper electrodes. Therefore, this cell is named as Daniel cell. A galvanic or Daniel cell is shown in the figure. A useful galvanic cell can be constructed by using zinc and copper. The anode is zinc rod dipped in a zinc sulfate solution. And the cathode is copper rod dipped in a copper sulfate solution. A salt bridge, which is inverter U tube containing an inert electrolyte such as potassium chloride or sodium chloride. It makes the electrical contact between the solutions through which ions can move. Let's zoom into the atomic scale and see how this cell operates. Here at the anode, the site of oxidation, zinc metal in the metal electrodes are in contact with surrounding electrolyte solution. Each zinc atom loses 2 electrons and becomes zinc ion, which enters into the solution. The electrons given up enters the electrode and join the flow of electrons up toward the external circuit. They travel through the wire and flow into the cathode, the site of reduction. When copper ions in the cathode solution make contact with copper electrodes, it gains 2 electrons and is reduced to copper atom, which deposit at the electrode. As the reaction continues, the excess amount of positive zinc ions build up in zinc solution. At the same time, the loss of copper ions from copper sulfate solution create excess of sulfate ions. Positive sodium or potassium ions migrate into copper sulfate solution from the salt bridge, while negative chloride ions migrate from the salt bridge to the zinc solution and maintain the neutrality of the solution. The overall reaction which takes place in the Daniell cell is given below. An electrochemical cell which involves spontaneous redox reaction to generate electricity is called a galvanic cell or Daniell cell. Components of galvanic cell. A galvanic cell consists of a zinc bar dipped into 1 molar zinc sulfate solution, a copper bar dipped into 1 molar copper sulfate solution, a salt bridge, a voltmeter to measure current. Each compartment of cell is called a half cell. Thus, a Daniell cell consists of 2 half cells joined in series. When circuit is complete, electrons begin to flow from sodium rod through the external circuit to the copper rod. Thus, zinc half cell act as anode and copper half cell act as cathode. So at anode, zinc is oxidized by losing electron, whereas at cathode, copper ions are reduced by gaining electron to form copper metal. Example of galvanic cell is battery. A battery is a galvanic cell or a group of galvanic cells joined in series. It is a source of electrical energy. Dry cell. What is a cell? A cell is the simplest unit for making electricity. When it is connected in a circuit, its anode oxidizes by releasing electrons. These electrons through the external circuit begin to flow toward the cathode. At cathode, these electrons reduce oxidizing agent present in the electrolyte. 2 or more cells form a battery. Now, let us study different components of a dry cell. A cell is covered with an insulating thick paper covering. Inside the paper covering is zinc metal can which act as anode. This is the positive terminal of the cell. It is a brass cap at the top. Inside the zinc can is the electrolyte, which is a mixture of moist ammonium chloride, manganese oxide, and zinc chloride. In the middle of the cell is a graphite rod which acts as cathode. This is the negative terminal of the cell, which is a base. Working of dry cell. When a cell is connected in a circuit, its anode oxidizes by releasing electrons. These electrons reduce oxidizing agent present in the electrolyte. So the reaction at cathode is ammonium ions react with manganese 2 oxide. By gaining 2 electrons, it forms manganese 3 oxide, ammonia gas, and water molecules. This cell produces a potential of 1.5 volts. Now, at the end of today's lesson, I am going to give you a question which is related to galvanic cell. What you have to do is to sketch a galvanic cell using the following chemicals: silver, silver nitrate, zinc, and zinc sulfate. Label the anode and cathode. Indicate the direction of flow of the electrons. Write the reactions occurring at anode and cathode.